Hey, what's up YouTube? This is CookieMonster ProForgeRacing, bringing you my personal history of Forge, part 3 of 4. In part 1, you saw my earliest maps ever. Part 2, you saw my first racetracks. And then you saw my racetracks getting a little bit better until my first few good racetracks. And in this part, you will see mostly my best racetracks from Halo 3. This first map here is called Power Plant by XDream76X, and the reason I have this map in here and one more is because these two maps really inspired me, and they were some of the first I ever had. This map, Power Plant by Dream, was the first one I ever downloaded as a smooth double wide on Sandbox, and it just kind of was mind-boggling to me because I had never seen a double wide map or anything close to a double wide map before. And although this is a simple track and nothing that special for a double wide, at the time it was just crazy to me. I didn't know how to put pieces inside of each other, you know, let alone at an angle or anything like that when I first got this map. And the second map I found was Silhouette by Rogue Shadow, and Rogue Shadow is an incredible forger, and this was one of the first ones I ever had. This was the first map by him I ever had, and these maps were just so crazy to me. And then I remember going into matchmaking at one point. I looked in this guy's file share, and he had like 12 racetracks. I think he had a bunch of the first great ones on Sandbox. I think he had Dune Drifter and Drawbridge by Agent Brute 117, and he had Trident's Twist and Blackheart, and I think Typhoon by Slick, and a few of Rogue Shadow's maps. Perhaps he had Power Plant by Dream. He just had a bunch of great early racetracks. I think 2 by ANF Knight as well. And I just, I downloaded them, and then I was just, so interested in them, after that, because I just wanted to make them. But anyways, this is the 5th good racetrack that I made, and this one's called CM Furiosity, which CM again is Cookie Monster, and this was my first map in the crypt that I ever built, and so I just figured, I might as well try a map on the crypt. This is also the first map that I ever made that was 100% ghost merged. All my other maps before, my first 2 good racetracks were 0 ghost merging, and my 3rd and 4th both used some, and this one was entirely ghost merged, and so were all the rest after it. This is my 6th one called Booty Gnaeus, and this map was pretty cool, I think. It kind of had like a figure 8 look to it. It was my first map where I ever put a hill in it, and I think the hill turned out decently, not perfect, because on the way down, what you have to do when you go down from a hill, you have to start going down, and then each piece is down a little bit more than the other, and then one is straight with one, and then you start going up. But I went down and then up, so it was a little bumpy. But it was a comment on this map that RLG Hot Tamale left, where we first ever met. He said, this is a cool map. It's not really my style. He's like, I like it, but I prefer the single wide, maps. He's like, it's still good though, LOL. So it was just kind of funny. It was a mixed review, but that's how we started talking, really. And this is my 7th map called Impulse, my 7th good double wide racetrack on Sandbox. Obviously not my 7th map ever, but this was a pretty good map. I had trouble ending my maps, which you'll see throughout all of my maps. Pretty much all of them, except for a few towards the end, are good. And it's just too bad, because what I tried to do is I tried to use every possible racetrack type piece. I used the wall doubles, the wall tees, the walls, the wall windows, and then I tried using the blocks and the bridges. I used every single piece possible to block doubles, and I tried making them too long. And what I really should have done on this map is end it right after that last hill, and then use the remaining pieces to border off a terrain section to the start. But I used to try to make my maps way too long, and since I did that, I ran out of pieces, and the endings weren't very good at all. I really wish I had just tried to make some of my maps shorter. This map is called CM Intensity, Cookie Monster Intensity. This is my 8th map, and This one and my 9th map, which you will see after it, obviously are both decent maps. However, I really rushed them because I wanted to get 10 total maps out and just have an exact 10 maps, and then I was going to be done. But I just had no motivation anymore after making 7 in a row. So I kind of rushed this one and the 9th one a lot, and they're kind of sloppy. But I mean, it's a decent map, but it's not very good. And as you'll see, the ending is not very good at all. I was never really proud of the endings of my maps, but I didn't know how else to end them, and it was really frustrating to me. So I just used to accept like ending them poorly, unfortunately. But anyways, this next map here is called Absurd, and I don't count this as one of my 20 good maps. There's 2 side projects. This is one of them. It's called Absurd because I made it on Blackout, and I had never seen a racetrack ever on Blackout before, and I thought it was absurd to make one on Blackout. There were actually quite a few Blackout maps, as you'll see in my Halo 3 history video, racing history. But it wasn't a very good Blackout map because a lot of the other ones, what they did is they used teleporters or something to get out of the map where they had more room to forge. Still, they didn't have much room or many pieces, but I used a lot of, I guess, the terrain, but the natural map, and it just didn't turn out very well. The first part was good, but that's about it. But this 9th map here is Skeptical, and this was my 9th good double wide, and I wasn't really terribly proud of this one. I mean, it turned out decently, but again, the ending was kind of crappy, and I did kind of have to rush this one along with the 8th one. But I mean, it still turned out decently. As you can tell, I never really added scenery at this point because I just didn't really know about scenery too much. And I mean, it's a decent map. Still not compatible with racetracks. It wasn't until my 15th good map that I started using racetracks compatibility, which I believe I mentioned before, but Can't Stop Donut, I showed him how to ghost merge, and then he showed me how to make compatible with the racetracks game type, so that was kind of convenient. This map is my 10th double wide. It was supposed to be my last one, and I called it Finale. It turns out I ended up making another 10, but this was a good map overall, I think, definitely. This is one of the few that I was like significantly proud of all the way through. The whole map was good. I just wish I had made these compatible with the racetracks game type because I think they would have been a little bit better, and they would have looked better too, because in Forge mode, especially with the sky tracks, the grid, it just looks uglier from a video and it doesn't look as good. But this map, I showed this one to HJ117 and he really liked it, and I was a huge fanboy of him and Layback Gaming at the time. And he accepted my friend request, and he said he liked my maps and that he would make a video of this one. And so I was like, when he made the video, I was super excited and honored. And it was actually in the video of Finale. He used a Hollywood Undead song, and I had downloaded their first album like a year before I watched that video, but I never listened to him. And then I really liked the song he used, Young, in that video, so I ended up listening to them after that. So he kind of got me into that band. But anyways, this next map here is called Relapse, because when you relapse on drugs, it's like going back to a bad habit. And that's kind of what I was doing, because I wanted to stop forging and start doing other things with my life. But after a few months, I was just bored and went back to it and started this one. I actually started a different map, but I deleted it and then ended up making this. And I think from an overview, as you saw a few seconds ago, this one, it looks really nice from an overview. It's not quite as smooth as it looks from the overview, but from the overview, it does look like a perfect, professional map. But the ending is the part that's the problem. It's not very good. This map, Bacon, is my second project map that I don't count. There was this series of maps called like a Halo 2 map, and I don't know why they were called that. But basically there was a sniper tower in the center of the map, and they were usually made on the sky bubble of Forge World. And they would have one thin layer, just single wide, flat. It wasn't elevated usually, it was completely flat. And it went around the entire outside of the sky bubble. And it was just this long map with a few obstacles and challenges, and you had to drive while someone was sniping you. And that was a fun game, and it was a cool idea, and I said why not make a double wide map that is based for that game type. And so that's what I did. Only got to play it a few times, unfortunately, because I didn't have many Xbox friends back then, and I used to make a new map every week anyways, so it didn't really matter, but it was a decent map. Not terribly proud of it. This one's called Serenity. This is my 12th good racetrack. Relapse was my 11th. And this is a pretty cool map. RLD Hot Tamale helped me with the landing and the jump. However, the jump still messes up a lot. There's kind of a TV, that's what it's supposed to be, where you go through at the top. It was the first, like, giant jump I had ever... Actually, no, that's not true. There was a giant one on my 6th map, Booty Gnaeus, but it was one of the only giant jumps that I made on one of my maps. And this double-wide part out here is smooth, but it doesn't really look like, you know, it's not like perfect turns. It's just kind of like random waves. And this next little jump here, sometimes you could end up landing kind of on your nose, like head first, and it just wasn't quite as good as it could have been. But overall, it was a decent map. And then there was another tunnel part right there, which I had already used in my 4th map, St. Peter, which was the last one in my History of Forge video part 2. But I mean, overall, this was a decent map, but it's just not perfect again. The jumps weren't. This one's called Establish, and this one, I was actually pretty proud of this one. It's incredibly smooth, and there's a jump that works really well. But again, the ending is where I mess up. The ending is an elevator, a down elevator, and it's just really not that consistent. I remember a forger I really respected at the time. Well, I still do. I'm just saying I was like a fan of his maps. XX Epic Forger XX. I really liked his maps, and he came and joined my game and said it was a good map, but with the ending, no one would use it in a tournament. And I didn't really know they had racing tournaments back then, but I guess they did. Obviously they did on racetracks.Org, but I just didn't know about them. And you know, he said it's a good map, but with that ending being inconsistent, they wouldn't use it in a tournament. So unfortunately, you know, another map of mine, great map, kind of ruined by a bad ending. Which is too bad, because if I did end these maps well and just made them shorter, like after the jump, if I had just ended it, it would have worked out well. But this map's called Tension. I'm pretty proud of this map. Overall, this one ends decently. When I applied, it actually right here at the beginning, it has a backflip elevator, which works most of the time, which is pretty cool. No one ever made a backflip elevator before. I made it by accident, actually. I tried to make a backside to the elevator, and your mongoose ended up hitting it on the way up, and you hit it, and it did a backflip. But it's a smooth map. I think it's good. It would have looked better, not in Forge and custom games, but this is the map before I made it. This is my 14th before the one that's compatible with racetracks. But I applied to Mapmaker on racetracks.Org, and I didn't make it, even though I used 2 decent maps, and I was kind of flustered as to why I didn't make it. And it was because my maps weren't compatible with the racetracks game type. But then I used this map and one of my other ones and applied again. And even though they weren't compatible, SMM 2010 still allowed me to become a map maker, even though they weren't compatible with the game type, which he wasn't supposed to do, but he was helping me out, so that was cool of him. But and I remember he like looked at that map, and I was a huge fan of his maps as well, so it was kind of cool to have him looking at my map. But anyway, and he said it was a good map, which was awesome. But anyways, this one is Phoenix. This is my 15th good map. This is the first one ever compatible with the racetracks game type. This map, I remember on racetracks.Org, some of the good map makers that I like their maps, like Master Pipes, I remember, said that, you know, this one looked like a great track, and it got lots of good comments. And it is a great map overall. It has a drift turn at the beginning and nice jumps, but there's this elevator towards the end that just... It's like a jump, more not really an elevator, it's more like a jump made with shield doors, and it's just not very accurate. And the ending is a little sloppy. It works out well, but it's sloppy. This is my 16th map, Cellet. I actually was pretty proud of this one and the way it turned out, because I think it just looks like one of those great double-wide sandbox racetracks that, you know, tangles within itself a lot. I was very proud of this one. This is one of the ones I was the most proud of, along with Finale and a few others. But I I mean, this one was cool. I had, I think, at least two. I think I had 4 total tunnels on the map. 2 that had red lights in them, and 2 that had blue lights in them. And I thought that was cool. I added some scenery. This was one of the first maps I really put some cool scenery on. And, I mean, it ends pretty well. I probably should have ended it right there with that little jump. And maybe added man cannons to slow you down, and then made a train section to the end. But I had a few more pieces to make a little more double-wide section, so I added this little like hill with a jump. But it works all the time, so that's good. This one's called Faithful Oasis. This is my 17th, and I was very proud of this one. There's a spiral at the end that looks really nice, and it's an incredibly smooth map. The only problem with this one actually isn't the end, but is the elevator towards the beginning. I worked really hard on the elevator and spent a lot of time tweaking it, and Spectacular Raw and BLH 728, I believe, tried helping me with it, but the elevator still didn't turn out perfectly, unfortunately. But I mean, overall, it's a pretty good map. It's got a lot of really smooth double-wide turns. They aren't quite perfect, like U-turns or perfect spirals, but and then right here is one of my first like wave attempts. But the very last turn on this map is a spiral, and I think it's a really nice spiral, actually. It's like perfect. And there's a couple shield doors because it's sort of at like a downward angle, but it still looks really nice, and I have a little scenery piece in the middle. And the map ends pretty well, so I was really proud of this one, definitely. And this one here is my 18th racetrack, Novacious. This was the last double-wide map that I made by myself, and I was inspired by Deep Atlantis by SMM 2010 and Dream. For the waves at the beginning, there was like 1 or 2 waves I had at the beginning of this map, and I tried to make them like how SMM did in that map, but just didn't turn out quite as well as I wanted to. Overall, this was a decent map. This one was pretty smooth. There was a huge jump on the map that actually works like 90% of the time. And this map technically ends well, but it ends weirdly. That's the jump right there that works really well. And there's a small jump at the end. You'll see it works. And, you know, you can complete a lap easily. It's just kind of weird. It's not the best. But this one was a jump idea that I had. This was before like collision courses were ever a thing. I had an idea for like a collision course. Like I wanted, you know, there to be like track on all 4 sides of that kill ball with 2 jumps, you know, going up and down and then left and right. And I thought that would be really cool to have like, you know, like a multiple jump section over that so people could hit each other, but I never ended up doing it. I think it was RLD's idea and I was going to make the map or something, or both of our idea, I can't quite remember. But anyways, this is my 19th map. This one's called Alteration because I like altered my shifted my forge from double wide forging to roller coaster. By the way, from my 15th map through my 20th, they're all compatible with the racetracks game type. I just did them in forge just to make it easier for this. But this had a front flip on it that I made kind of unintentionally at first. Both of my stunts, my backflip elevator and my front flip, were both kind of by accident. But this is the first roller coaster, like real roller coaster, besides a few shitty ones, you know, way back. This was the first like real good roller coaster I ever made, and I actually think it was really good. It had a few cool scenery pieces on it. It had a front flip. It has several jumps. It reconnects perfectly. It's compatible with the racetrack's game type. It's long. It's smooth in the sense that, you know, there's not like super bumps that knock you off. But I think it's a great roller coaster. However, no one really ever got to see this map because I released it like a few days before Halo Reach came out. You know, I made my map Revolution, my first Halo Reach one, just a few days after this map. So, you know, it only got like 100 downloads. But I think if I had made this one, you know, months before, it would have gotten maybe a few thousand downloads. But, I mean, I was really proud of this one because I'd never made a roller coaster, and I think it turned out super well, reconnected perfectly. I did make it compatible with the racetrack's game type, you know, had some great jumps, the front flip, smooth turns. I loved it. And this was the very last Halo 3 racetrack, very last Halo 3 map I ever made, and X2Hip is Rippin' ever made. X2Hip is Rippin' is now known as V-Ionized. I'm sure you've heard of him. He is, in my opinion, the best racetrack forger ever in Halo Reach. And he started this map up until right after this little turn here, right until right about there. And I made this entire huge turn, this entire turn made out of blocks. And I made this hill, and he made the last turn up here, going under the part we did. And then I made the ending hill and drop. He had started this map and then asked me if I wanted to co-forge one with him, and so we did. But I think it turned out decently. The drop at the end is kind of weird, but I was completely out of pieces, so there was nothing I could do. But anyways, yeah, those are all the maps I ever made. This was one I started. I had only titled it New, but as you can tell, it's a pretty sweet map so far. A giant hill, a turn, a giant hill. But I never ended up getting to finish it. I remember when Reach came out, I was like, I'm going to go back and make a bunch more racetracks. I'm still going to do Halo 3 forging. Screw Reach. But that didn't end up happening, so that's too bad that I never finished this. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to watch Part 4, which is all my Halo Reach maps. Thank you again for watching.
Cookie out!